Chapter 24 Ideals of our Constitution. Let's learn features of our Constitution, the preamble, fundamental rights, directive principles of state policy, fundamental duties. The Constitution lays down the framework defining fundamental political principles, establishes the structure, procedures, powers, and duties of government institutions, and sets out the fundamental rights, directive principles, and the duties of citizens. The Constitution of India. The Constitution of India is the supreme law of India. It was adopted by the Constituent Assembly of India on 26 November 1949 and came into force from 26 January 1950. The date 26 January was chosen for its enforcement because it was on this date 20 years earlier that the Indian National Congress had adopted the resolution on Purna Swaraj or complete independence. And since 1950, this day is celebrated as the Republic Day. Features of our Constitution. India has the longest written constitution in the world. The Constitution of India has some outstanding features which distinguish it from other constitutions. The framers of our Constitution studied other constitutions, selected their valuable features, and put them with necessary modifications in our Constitution. The fundamental rights and the federal form of government were adopted from the Constitution of the USA. The parliamentary system of government and single citizenship were adopted from the Constitution of UK. The directive principles of state policy were adopted from the Constitution of Ireland. The 5-year plans and fundamental duties were adopted from the Constitution of the former USSR. InfoHive. The drafting of the Constitution was done by a drafting committee headed by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Jawaharlal Nehru was the Prime Minister and Dr. Rajendra Prasad was the President. The Constitution of India has 448 articles in 25 parts, 12 schedules and 100 amendments, August 2015. Whether a constitution is rigid or flexible depends on the nature of amendments. Some provisions of our Constitution can be amended by the Parliament with a simple majority. The amendment of most other provisions of the Constitution require a special majority in both houses of the Parliament. There are some other provisions of Constitution which cannot be amended by the Parliament alone. The Preamble. The preamble to the Constitution of India is a brief introductory statement that sets out the guiding purpose and principles of the document. The hopes and aspirations of the people as well as the ideals of our nation are described in the preamble in very clear terms. The preamble may be considered as the soul of the Indian Constitution. We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic and political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith and worship, equality of status and of opportunity and to promote among them all, fraternity assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity and integrity of the nation. In our Constituent Assembly, this 26th day of November 1949, do hereby adopt, enact and give to ourselves this Constitution. Salient features of our Constitution. Sovereignty. The preamble proclaims that India is a sovereign state. Such a proclamation denotes the end of foreign rule over India. It testifies to the fact that India is no longer a dependency or colony or possession of British Crown. As a sovereign independent state, India is free both internally and externally to take its own decisions and implement them for its people and territories. The word sovereign means having independent authority and the right to govern itself. The supreme power lies in the people, as we can see from the opening words in the preamble, we, the people of India. Socialist. The word socialist means a country which gives an equal right to all citizens in the national wealth. Under social equality, everyone must have equal status and opportunities. India stands for ending all forms of exploitation as well as for securing equitable distribution of income, resources, and wealth. This has to be secured by peaceful constitutional and democratic means. Economic equality refers to equitable distribution of wealth and a decent standard of living for all. For the proper development of our country, it is important to bridge the gap between the rich and the poor by achieving both social and economic equality. The term India is a socialist state really means India is a democratic socialist state. Secularism. The preamble declares that India is a secular country. As a state, it doesn't give special status to any religion. There is no such thing as a state religion of India. All religions enjoy equality of status and respect. Indian secularism guarantees equal freedom to all religions. It stands for the right to freedom of religion for all citizens. People are given opportunity on the basis of their merit and qualification and not on the basis of the religion they adhere to. Every religious group in India can practice and propagate its faith. Info Hive. The words secular and socialist were added to the preamble in 1976 through the 42nd Amendment of the Indian Constitution. Democracy. The preamble declares India to be a democratic state. The Constitution of India provides for a democratic system. The people of India elect their governments at all levels, union, state and local, by a system of universal adult franchise, popularly known as one person, one vote. In India, citizens who are 18 years and above have the right to vote. Elections are held every 5 years. Every citizen enjoys this right without any discrimination on the basis of caste, creed, color, sex, religious affiliation or education. If the people are dissatisfied with the government, they can vote it out. Thus, the ultimate power lies in the hands of the people. The word democratic not only refers to political, but also to social and economic democracy. Federalism. The Constitution provides for a federal form of government. In a federation, there are two governments at the central level and at the state level. In India, the powers of the government are divided between the central and state governments. The President is the constitutional head of our country. The Prime Minister heads the government at the center, and the Parliament makes laws for the country. At the state level, the governor is the nominal head, while the Chief Minister heads the government. The Vidhan Sabha, or the state legislature, makes laws for the state. There are 3 different lists under which powers and functions of the center and the state governments have been defined: Union list, state list, and concurrent list. Democratic Republic. The preamble declares India to be a republic. A democratic republic refers to a government chosen by the people. India has an elected head of state as opposed to hereditary heads of state in a monarchy, who wields power for a fixed term. In India, the President is the head of the state and the Prime Minister is the head of the government. Both of them are elected by the people. The President is elected indirectly by the people as the representatives elected by the people elect him. The Prime Minister is appointed the leader of the majority party or coalition in the Parliament. Both of them are elected for a specified period of 5 years. This feature makes India a republic. Fundamental objectives listed in the preamble. Justice. The term justice in the preamble refers to 3 varying aspects: political, social and economic justice, which are secured through different provisions of fundamental rights and directive principles of state policy. Liberty. All the citizens are secured with liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith and worship through the fundamental rights which are justifiable in nature. Freedom must be exercised within the constitutional limits. Equality. It means that all people are equal and have equal opportunities. The right of a rich person is in no way superior to that of a poor person. For securing the equality of status and opportunity, the Constitution of India grants and guarantees the fundamental right to equality. Fraternity. This refers to a feeling of brotherhood and a sense of belonging within the country among its people. It is essential to maintain the unity of the nation. Fundamental rights. For the all-round development of all people, it is necessary that all citizens are given certain basic rights by which they can lead a dignified and respectable life. We can also call these rights as human rights because they are concerned with the dignity of a human being. In the Constitution of India, these rights have been called fundamental rights. These are the basic rights for which our freedom fighters fought against the British. The fundamental rights in Indian Constitution act as a guarantee that all Indian citizens can and will live their lives in peace as long as they live in Indian democracy. These include individual rights common to most liberal democracies, such as equality before the law, freedom of speech and expression, freedom of association and peaceful assembly, freedom of religion, and the right to constitutional remedies for the protection of civil rights. Fundamental rights are essential human rights that are offered to every citizen irrespective of caste, race, creed, place of birth, religion, or gender. These are given equally to all, and these are essential for personal good and society at large. The fundamental rights, however, are not absolute. In case of any external aggression or internal threat, the fundamental rights, except right to life and liberty, are suspended. The Constitution of India gives us 6 fundamental rights. They are: right to equality. The right to equality has been given in the Constitution from Articles 14 to 18. The Constitution declares that all citizens are equal before law. It prohibits any discrimination between citizens on grounds of religion, race, caste, sex, and place of birth. All citizens have equal access to shops, public entertainments, and places of public resort, which are maintained wholly or partly by the state. Brain tickler. Do you think awareness about rights is essential in order to make them meaningful? However, special provisions have been made regarding women, children, socially and educationally backward classes, and scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. The Constitution guarantees equal opportunities relating to public employment to all citizens, but some posts may be reserved for backward classes. Our Constitution has also abolished untouchability and its practice in any form which is a punishable offence. It also prohibits the state from conferring any titles, except military ranks and academic distinctions. Citizens of India cannot accept title from a foreign state. Right to freedom. Articles 19 to 22 deal with the right to freedom. Our Constitution guarantees 6 different freedoms to promote the ideal of liberty mentioned in the preamble. The freedoms included under this are: freedom of speech and expression, freedom to assemble peacefully without arms, freedom to form associations or unions, freedom to move freely throughout the territory of India, freedom to reside and settle in any part of the territory of India, freedom to practice any profession or to carry on any occupation, trade, and business. These freedoms are not absolute. For example, we enjoy the right to speech and expression, but it also means that we shall express ourselves freely without hurting or harming others. An important provision in Article 20 is that no person can be punished for the same offence twice, and that no person can be compelled to be a witness against himself. Article 21 says that no person can be denied his life or liberty without due process of law. Article 22 states that if a person is arrested, he will be produced before the magistrate within 24 hours. Also, he has to be informed of the cause of his arrest. The arrested person has the right to consult and appoint a lawyer of his or her choice for his or her defense. Right against exploitation. The right against exploitation has been given in Articles 23 and 24. Some sections of the society, such as women, children, and oppressed people, are vulnerable to exploitation. This right has been included in the Constitution of India in order to provide protection to them. The abolition of trafficking in human beings and bonded labor, forced labor, abolition of employment of children below the age of 14 years in hazardous jobs like factories and mines. Begar, or unpaid labor practiced in the past by landlords, has been declared a crime and is punishable by law. Trafficking in humans for the purpose of slave trade is also prohibited by law. Brain tickler. According to you, which is the most important fundamental right? Right to freedom of religion. According to the Constitution, Articles 25 to 28, all religions are equal before the state and no religion shall be given preference over the other. Citizens are free to preach, practice and propagate any religion of their choice. Religious communities can set up charitable institutions of their own. Activities in such institutions, which are not religious, are performed according to the laws laid down by the government. No person shall be compelled to pay taxes for promotion of a particular religion. A state-run institution cannot impart education that is pro-religion. Cultural and educational rights. The Indian Constitution guarantees cultural and educational rights under Articles 29 and 30. In India, education finds place in the concurrent list. India is home to people of different religions, communities, cultures, races, languages and castes. The Constitution allows every citizen of India to have a cultural freedom and education up to where that person wants. This fundamental right is described in the Constitution as any section of citizens residing in the territory of India or any part thereof, having a distinct language, script or culture of its own, shall have the right to conserve the same. The government also helps and encourages the development of cultural activities of different regions and communities. This article also states that no discrimination will be practiced against them on this ground. Right to constitutional remedies. This right makes other rights effective. Article 32 gives all citizens a right to move the judiciary for the enforcement of the rights. That is, if a fundamental right has been violated by the state or any other person, then a complaint can be filed in Supreme Court or High Court. These courts possess the power to uphold the fundamental rights of the citizen by issuing a writ or an order. Dr. Ambedkar called the right to constitutional remedies the heart and soul of our Constitution. Directive principles of state policy. The directive principles of state policy are guidelines for the framing of laws by the government. These are provisions set out in Part 4 of the Constitution. Although the directive principles are asserted to be fundamental in the governance of the country, they are not legally enforceable. Instead, they are guidelines for creating a social order characterized by social, economic, and political justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity as articulated in Constitutional's preamble. The importance of these principles can be judged from the fact that the Supreme Court has referred to them as conscious of the Constitution. Info Hive. The Indian Constitution is a handwritten document put together by three artists, Prem Bihari Narayan Raizada, Nandlal Bose, Byohar Ram Manohar Sinha. Fundamental duties. The 42nd Amendment Act of 1976 added some responsibilities of citizens to our Constitution called fundamental duties. Rights and duties are interrelated. The idea behind incorporation of fundamental duties was to remind the citizens of the country that they have certain obligations towards it and society. As the state offers them fundamental rights, it is the fundamental duty of each citizen of India to maintain national integrity and contribute to making the society better. The fundamental duties are as follows: to abide by the Constitution and respect its ideals and institutions, the national flag and the national anthem, to cherish and follow the noble ideals which inspired our national struggle for freedom, to uphold and protect the sovereignty, unity and integrity of India, to defend the country and render national service when called upon to do so, to promote harmony and spirit of common brotherhood amongst all the people of India, transcending religious, linguistic, regional or sectional diversities, to renounce practices derogatory to the dignity of women, to value and preserve the rich heritage of our composite culture, to protect and improve the natural environment, including forests, lakes, rivers, and wildlife, and to have compassion for living creatures, to develop the scientific temper, humanism, and the spirit of inquiry and reform. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights, UDHR. Human rights are basic rights and freedom that all people are entitled to, regardless of nationality, race, religion, language, caste and gender. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights, UDHR, is the foundation of international system of protection for human rights. The General Assembly proclaims this Universal Declaration of Human Rights as a standard of achievement for all people and all nations, to the end that every individual and every common organ of society, keeping this declaration constantly in mind, to promote respect of these rights and freedoms, to secure their universal and effective recognition and observance, both among the peoples of member states themselves and among the peoples of territories under their jurisdiction. Recap. The Constitution of India is the supreme law of India. It has the longest written constitution in the world. Important goals given in the preamble to our Constitution are sovereignty, socialism, secularism and democracy. Our Constitution guarantees 6 fundamental rights: right to equality, right to freedom, right against exploitation, right to freedom of religion, cultural and educational rights, and right to constitutional remedies. The 42nd Amendment Act of 1976 added some responsibilities of citizens to our Constitution called fundamental duties.